We decided to spend the winter season volunteering in the Norwegian Arctic. If you missed our last video where we spent 2 months in Steigen, you can click the link in our description. This video is all about our time spent volunteering at a guest house and activity centre in Vesteralen. To reach this area of Norway, we had to catch a ferry, a bus, and then a ride in a car for the final section, and these are the sort of views we had along the way. This is the main property where we'd be working. It was in a village of about 20 houses, but hardly anyone lived there. The volunteering work was very varied. We did a mix of cleaning, cooking, and even taking guests on adventure activities like eagle safaris, snowshoeing, and kick sledding tours. This is what a kick sled looks like. It has 2 metal runners and a seat, and so you can put a kid on the front or a backpack, and it's a very safe way of getting around on icy roads in winter. It's also pretty fun to take them along the frozen lakes, and while we were there we spotted some locals who were pushing kids in prams along the lake as well. There were 6 of us volunteers there at the same time, and when we weren't working, we'd go on lots of hikes around the local area. Our good friend Chloe, who is a kayak instructor, took us on an amazing kayak trip around all of the local islands. One of our favourite things we did in this area was going on a 3-day trip to a wilderness cabin, and it involved a 1-kilometre walk through deep snow to reach it. They even had canoes which you could borrow, so we headed out while the weather was calm and went as far as we could up this fjord. Half of the fjord was actually frozen, so a huge sheet of ice covered it and we couldn't get any further. So we decided that was the perfect midway spot to stop for a cup of tea. While we were sat there enjoying the scenery and relaxing, we couldn't help but notice the weather was turning. The waves were getting choppy and it was going to be a lot more tricky getting back.
We can't get through that!
The open sea was just too rough to paddle through, so we ended up taking some narrow passages between islands, but that meant that we got wedged on a lot of rocks as the water was quite shallow. Needless to say, we were very excited to get back to the cabin and go into the sauna, and when things got too hot we would jump into the snow outside. The area we were living in was quite good for wildlife. We saw moose on a few occasions, and the islands surrounding us had a good population of eagles. Craig was taught how to drive a boat, so he took all of us on a trip to the open sea where we tried some deep sea fishing and caught lots of cod.
Oh, wow.
Comes. Oh yeah, it's a big. Another one. It's your fish already. safer.
Oh, it's such a difference of temperature.
Yeah, it's incredible. So we're still going 2.5 kilometers an hour. Oh, you see that?
Nice catch.
After any fresh snow, we'd all head out to the hills at the back of the village and create new sledding tracks. It was great fun, but after a couple days it would all freeze over and they would be absolutely lethal to slide along. Seeing as spring was on its way, we managed to get the rowboat out, so Craig and I went on a little fishing trip all on our own. The temperature warmed up to about 1 or 2 degrees, so we decided now was the time for us to finally jump into the sea. The seasons can change really quickly in Norway. When we first arrived in this area, we had 10 hours of daylight. As we're leaving 2 months later, we now have 18 hours, which means the midnight sun is fast approaching. We had an amazing time going off on adventures with the other volunteers, so we'll be a little sad to leave. However, it's time for us to head to our favourite place in Norway, the Lofton Islands.